the record button.
Beautiful. Okay, so for Perl, we have, there we go. We have a repo on GitLab. That's where things happen. We have a Sentry. It uses Elastic, so that's there. Then there's on Worldwide Wayback, there's a Confluence session, which has some things. And then we have Nomad. And so Nomad is actually where the jobs run. And just so you can see, we keep 3 instances running. And when we push to production, a branch on GitLab, when we push to production, it basically, Nomad just cycles out the jobs and puts in new jobs. And then if they fail, it brings back the ones that that were there or not. So if we look at it from a user perspective, we can go to Perl. Let's go in as me. Whoops. Let's go in as me. Yeah. Oops. And I think I need to do this. This. Okay, so this is what a user sees, and I'm logged in as myself. And then I can log out. Obviously, there's a little bit of help, but not much. And I can search by my domain. So I have one domain called CloudSoft. So let's search that domain.
How often, from your experience, do domains include capital letters?
I didn't create any, not thinking consciously, just because I'm used to URLs that are all lowercase.
Yeah.
But I did see that there are some problems, or there are some domains that have uppercase and dashes, and that may or may not be a problem. And I hadn't really tested that much. Mm-hmm. So within a domain, you can create basically a URL link. And so I created cloudsoft/Apple, and that points to apple.com. So if a user goes to my domain and they click on Apple, they'll go there. And then for testing purposes, I created, Facebook and Slack and Python and News and Microsoft, et cetera.
And these are all reporting 302 found, which means that the resource within the target in the middle, the third column, is resolving correctly from the first column, which is the name.
Correct. So that's exactly right. So so on this domain, there's Python in here. I was trying out hyphen, and that will take me to python.org, and that's the way that works. So so this is more a creator perspective, and I can edit these to change the URLs or leave the URLs as is. So when you're in in this realm, it's basic CRUD, right? You can create, you can delete, you can edit, etc. So that gives you a sense for it. And then if I go back to my domain, CloudSoft, you can see that I have that. And if I go back one more,
we can potentially create a new domain.
Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Oh, I can go home. There we go, which is just purlprodarchive.org, and that's based on my user. And then I can create new domains. Okay.
So can we do instead of a search, can we create a new domain of, in all capital, test-1? And is this unique per user or unique globally? Per user, right?
This is unique by user.
Got it. Okay.
And actually, let me just show you one more thing before we go there. So if I go up here and I click on show Perl domains, these are all the Perl domains I've created. So you can see I've been doing lots of testing, and trying things out, but I always did it lowercase and underscore. So so let's go back to your experiment and let's create test one. And what you'll see here is it'll take a few seconds. It'll create that new domain, but that new domain won't be ready for my use until maybe a minute later.
This is derive related.
Right, bingo.
Okay, so under the hood, for those who might be watching the video, what's happening is this domain is resulting in some item being created on archive.org. When an item is created and uploaded, some metadata, presumably like a JSON file, I would guess, or YAML or something, is being created and added to the item. Items, when they are created on archive.org, go through a derive process, which has like a checksum and anti-spam and all of these other things. We actually may not need to run the checksum or anti-spam, so there may be ways to speed that up. But that's completely separate. I'm just filling the time until the derive occurs.
Right, and my thought was, so that it took 19 seconds, but the domain won't really be available for about a minute. And my thought was to go through and put in the pip installable archive.org, our Internet Archive, and use that, but I didn't do it. So let's go out here and let's just go to the end and see if we have a new domain. And actually we don't yet. And these things, it just seems to take time.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing that we could do is we could go to /domain/test-1 in the URL, and so you can see what happens.
Let's go TEST-1.
Okay. So
and now it resolves. And if we view subdomains, we should see that it's just there by itself. Now, the thing that your queries sort of put in my head is, what if it's not the domain itself, but it's the subdomain underneath? So
which it could be. I think we should do one that we think will succeed. So no dashes.
Yeah. So let's first create.
And I think we should also use the same, one of the resources, one of the URLs that failed from the other domain, which I can fetch for us.
Okay, great. That'd be great.
Okay, so here is an example. I'm also noticing that the targets in this case are all Wayback Machine URLs. And if the point of purl is to take a URL and Wayback it, then
we're being a bit redundant.
or maybe that's what is breaking and we should bring that up.
Okay.
So what I'm going to suggest is I'm going to send a message to you in Zoom.
Yep.
This is the URL that is being routed through the Wayback Machine. This is the URL that the user or the patron is actually attempting to archive. It might be a case that we don't have a bug here. They are misusing the service by trying to permanently reference a Wayback snapshot. And so I think we should do both and use the same. Well, I don't know that we gave it a name, did we?
We didn't. So this sort of represents the root of the tree, if you will.
Okay.
I
see.
If we go back and view subdomains. Maybe I need to create.
Let's do, if I may, let's have a letter dash either numbers or capital letters or whatever you'd like.
So what I thought we'd try here is do the direct URL and then the indirect URL.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep, that sounds fine.
Okay, so direct.
Meanwhile, as you set that up, I'm going to make a report in Perl.
And do we want a hyphen or do we want to stay away from hyphen?
We could test one thing at a time. Why don't we call it direct one with no hyphen, and then we can. But I feel like the subdomain probably has been tested with dashes. But we can worry about that later.
All right, so we've added direct one. And then immediately following, I'm going to create direct hyphen one. We're going to give those both the same URL. And then I'm going to create indirect one. And I'm going to use this other URL, the rerouted URL. What happened? Oh, it clicked. That's what it did. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to create the indirect. And then we're going to create the indirect. Hyphen one. And again, use that same URL.
All right, so now we're using the web URL. Is that true?
Now we're using the what?
The Wayback Web URL.
Wayback Web.
Oh,
yes. Indirect is the Wayback Web, and direct is just the simple URL that goes directly to the PDF. All right, let's see how we're doing here with domains.
I see test one at the very beginning.
So the domain
I
does
think
not.
I think it is. I think it added it.
Oh, there it is. It's number one. There we go. Got it. And then if we view subdomains, we have this. And they're still not showing up. It's a strange user experience, these delays. All right,
Yeah,
so let's try.
We might be able to manually add it. Yep.
Okay, so now we're going to try direct one and see if we can go straight to the artifact.
And we get not found. And we didn't have any dashes, right? It was just direct one.
Yep. Let's try it up here. Nope.
So one hypothesis is that it's just the capital letters.
Yeah, that hypothesis seems to hold its weight. It doesn't feel quite right. Let me go back to show the domains. There's my domain. There we see indirect one has finally appeared. The last one we created has finally appeared. And if I click on it, I'm going nowhere.
Okay, but both went nowhere, right?
Say again.
But
Yes.
both of the links.
Yes, both went nowhere. You're correct.
So update this observation about the patron's use case is true. However, we've replicated a case where the domain is capital and includes hyphens. And it didn't matter if we used a wayback URL target or a standard URL target. Both cases failed in our example. We can do a separate test. We can do a separate test of wayback versus standard URL target with a domain that doesn't include capital letters or hyphens. Okay, so I think the next test that we should do is the same exact thing. Can we go to an let's create a new domain of lowercase test-1.
Okay, great.
Unfortunately, I think we're going to have to do 3 in total.
That's fine.
So we should expect this to last for another 10 minutes or so, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Great. All right, so now we're going to go back home. We're going to create a new domain. We're going to call this lowercase test.
Yeah, and let's do it test-2, just in case there's somehow
Fine.
a collision.
Yep. Test-2.
Looks good to me. So now we are testing the hyphen case. And I think what we want to do is use the same, not that it matters, but we'll do a direct 1 and direct 2, or sorry, whatever we used. We
Yeah,
can just call it regular and way back.
Yeah.
You're the boss.
Yep, good. Okay, so now if we look at our domains, it hasn't appeared, but we can probably go there. Test-2. And indeed, it already exists.
I think this might need another moment. I'm noticing that I'm not seeing the domain populated after the colon, whereas before, but if we refresh a few times, I imagine we will.
Strange user experience.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, no, it hasn't appeared yet.
Yeah, it is strange that it's trying to show us anything, honestly. But I think we're just going to have to keep refreshing this page and expect that it'll take a little bit of time.
There we go. Boom. All right. So now under this domain, we're going to create a /
I feel like if Brewster were to watch this video, he would appreciate the head scratching. This is definitely something that I think, if we're facing it, other patrons are facing it, and it's something that can definitely be improved.
Yep.
So
all right, now
solve this bug, and then we can share the video and also our recommendations for maybe how the user experience might be improved. But I think it'll be obvious to folks too. Sorry, go ahead.
Agree. So I'm going to create this direct 2 so we can keep 1 and 2 separate. And I'm not going to use a hyphen in the first instance.
Do you mind? Okay, never mind. I just wanted to make sure the beginning of the URL was, in fact, the direct URL and not the way back.
Got it. Okay. Well, we'll see it again this time because I'm about to do it again. Direct. And hyphen 2. And we're going to go here. And we're going to scroll to the beginning of the URL.
You might be able to do Control A and then left. Control A will select all, and left will bring you to the beginning.
No, you're right. We used the wrong one. Okay, so the directs are indirect. Okay, so let's go back and view the subdomains when this gives us the chance. And we still see only the main one. All right. So how did that work that I wasn't able to copy this? There we go. Takes us there. Okay, so let's go back. Let's create this.
Yeah, why don't we just call it URL? And then whatever direct means. Yeah, it should be okay.
All right, and then let's do, that is really direct.
Yep, that looks good to me. And at this point, we don't care about the dashes because we assume the first test. Okay.
Okay, and then we're going to do -2 just for the fun of it.
Okay.
And we go there.
Yeah. And so
Okay.
probably the most important case is if we click on the first link, let's hold off for a second. But if we click
Yeah.
on the test to direct to, I
Yeah,
just want to explain my reasoning here. This will actually give us confidence that everything is working and we don't need to test anything else. Because what this would mean is A, a target of a Wayback Machine link is working.
yeah,
B, if there is a dash in the subdomain, it works.
yeah,
C,
But-
it also gives us much more confidence that the problem is a domain that includes all caps or capital letters. So let's see if we get lucky and click on the name or however we actually do the thing. And if it resolves or works, then we're done. And I think we're done. This means Wayback Machine links work. This means dashes and subdomains work. And we've been able to reproduce the problem with capital letters in the domain. Yeah.
yeah, makes sense to me. I like the logic.
So I think we can stop the video and share it in the Purl channel. And I think the next step is to figure out where we can either lowercase the domains or solve the problem by allowing a patron to enter in an uppercase domain, but somehow lowercase it when we are fetching it from archive.org. There's some problem there.
Yeah, and I think the only conflict there is going to be if they have uppercase and lowercase of exactly the same thing, we're going to have to prohibit them from doing that. But I think
that seems true. Why don't we spend? Do you have another 5 minutes?
I do.
I feel confident we can time box it to that. I would like to at least on video jump into an area of the code which broadly deals with some of this stuff. So at least someone else who's coming along can knows what URL to go to. I think this will be the purl. Also, let's be mindful if there's any keys that might be in the.
I think we can steer clear of that. They would be in config, so we'll steer clear of that. And there
might be one S3 example.
There's Purl, and all of the sort of the user-facing stuff is in all.py. This is all the URL related work.
Mhm.
And so this is where we wire up to Century, etc. And then log in, log out, create a domain search, find all my domains, get the domain details, get a Purl, etc. Get the Purl details, sign in, create a new Purl. This is the one that's been the most problematic. Looping until saved has been problematic, and then editing the Purl page. So there, that's the basic stuff around
where does the domain get created again? Is it that new domain below?
I thought it was about new Purl.
New Purl. Okay. It's a shame because there's no comment here. So this is when we go to, is this true? Here's where we go to new_purl and it's a post. And presumably that's what's happening when we submit the form on the homepage. And this creates an identifier, which already we're seeing here that the identifier is using the item name, and the item name is going to have capital letters and dashes. I'm not even, am I positive whether dashes can exist in archive.org items? Probably can. That seems right. I think the next thing to double check is, do you remember how Brenton was looking in the archive.org item and it seemed right? Let me find out.
Yeah, if you could paste me that.
Yes. Just give me a second here. So I'm going to send you this URL in Zoom.
Yeah.
And I believe the item opens up just fine. Yeah, okay. It does for me. This has dashes and capital letters. We've confirmed that it fails from purl, but it seems to work on archive.org. And then if we change this URL to,
I don't quite. Oh, okay. So I find it hard to believe that I'm the only person who did test one. Purl test one was created today. And
all the data seems to look good on the item itself. And then if I show all, I should see what I believe is purl.json, right?
JSON.
I'm gonna give another link, which I think is the same thing that you're looking at. Yep, you're looking at the right thing.
Right.
Okay, so let's look back at the code for a moment. I think we've confirmed that.
So one thing that is quite important there. In here, the only purl that was created was indirect one. So when we created direct one and indirect one without the hyphen and direct one with the hyphen, none of those got created. The only purl that got created was the last one we created.
That is very strange. And also, if there was an error, it didn't get propagated.
Let's see what we have here. So this is test one, metadata. Yeah, this is just the metadata. It doesn't tell us much.
Okay.
All right.
Either way, the test case that we did, I think, addressed our problem, because even with the dash in the subdomain and even using the wayback link for the other test, it succeeded correctly.
Yep.
So I think,
and test 2 is currently being modified or updated by a task bup.
Yes, which is kind of like a no-op.
And so just looking at test 2, here we got 2 domains created, URL2 and direct2, the ones with the hyphens. Mm-hmm. And the other ones might be
similar.
Might be in the queue.
Oh, it's also interesting that this lives in an item purl_test-2.
Right.
Because that means that the domain is not included here. Or like, what's happening here? Because this means that two patrons could have a subdomain with the same name and cause a problem.
Yeah, that case is not clear to me, but it's certainly is a possibility.
Okay.
I would imagine there's invalid URL for this domain. The Perl already exists.
Okay, so on 308, we create the item, and then we give it an
You
item
get
name.
the metadata, yeah.
Yeah. And then an error if the domain already exists, and then invalid domain if that's the case. If the type, checking the type, and we loop to create it, right? And it seems like there isn't a problem with creating it. The problem is with clicking the link, right? The subdomain link. So
Yeah, yeah.
What is the URL that clicks the link?
I'm sorry, where are you? Are you looking at this code or what?
So if we go back to the user interface for Perl.
Sure. Let's go back to.
Then the case we care about, I think, and let's keep this file open if possible.
Yeah, well, let me just move this 1 second. Just gonna move this to a new tab.
Yep. And the thing that we'll care about is the failure case, which was test 1 in capital. So if we go to home domains or whatever.
And now you can see this is starting to show up. So you want to go back one, and you actually want to look at the domains.
Yes. So we'll go to test 1, which is the failure, right? So if we hover over test-1 indirect-1, does that give us a URL? So when we click that error, when we click the URL, that's when it says not found, right?
Yeah, so it's going to Perl prod archive.org Perl test1 indirect 1.
So we want to look at the code that corresponds to test1 redirect 1. So domain/subdomain in the code.
So
where's that?
We were.
Oh, actually, right. A little bit up. Okay, Perl domain details. No, I think what we're going to want is the first route is going to be in carets. So like we're going to see some sort of app.route where the domain is in carets and a subdomain is in carets.
Got it. Now let's see what we're doing. Subdomains, prefix, domain search, login, logout.
Can we do a search actually for /left caret or less than caret? Open caret, however we want to call it. Okay, we'll keep paging through these. Neither of those seem right.
Perl path name.
That's
for the Perl details.
That might be it.
New Perl, edit Perl, delete Perl.
Or it might be this right here, the /path.
Perl redirect.
Which seems like it's taking, so let's take a look at this function. We're seeing path, right? And then on 541, what we're seeing is get Perl to path, which takes a path and returns Perl. And then Perl target equals add schema. I'm expecting something to be like, okay, Perl target, right, on 553.
Yeah.
And then presumably what's happening if we're in the right function is we're hitting 559 and it's saying not found.
Yep.
And what we want to happen is 5 557 or 553.
553 is probably what we want, right?
What is that? Do redirect purl. If the purl type in partial append extension, I have no idea what that is. Then return redirect. Okay. I don't know if we have a test case for 541. Purl equals get purl to path. But if I had a way to like get to a shell or something, or like access the database, then the first thing I would do is test that get purl to path is working with a path that has uppercase letters. Can we take a look at get purl to? I have no reason to be confident about that function, but it seems like that may be the thing. Get purl from IA, okay. And that is coming
pull
from
that in from IA.
Okay.
Okay, the domain equals find the domain given the path, and if the domain.
And so what does find domain do? Because domain is probably the thing that, so we care about domain and also find purl in domain. Find domain and then find purl in domain. What does find domain do?
There's find domain.
Okay. Take a look at 255. Okay, fun session. Why don't we report back? We are locating the path.
Right.
And if the domain is uppercase, then we've lost.
Okay. Yeah, it was gonna be the thing that I was gonna do next is search for dot upper and dot lower, and there you have it.
I did that in the other file, but I didn't think to do this one. And then 257, it looks like that's the same problem.
Yeah.
So we have identified the problem. I'm gonna stop recording. We can share this in the channel, and then either you can invest some time tomorrow since we've allocated some hours tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or I can take a stab at it. Either way, just here I'll stop recording.